And today's Decay, celebrating births and beginnings of everything important since the dawn of time. September 28th edition. And here we are reading a original printing of 7 Footprints to Satan by A. Merritt. This is from Argosy magazine, collected, I think, from an old library from the 20s or 30s. So it was published in installments, and this is the whole collection. And while that's not exactly, it's not A. Merritt's birthday today, it is a Benjamin Christensen's birthday today, which 7 Footprints to Satan is probably one of his most exciting films he's ever made. So I thought, let me peruse some of the books here related to Benjamin Christensen, because he was born today, 1879. Danish filmmaker, I believe, who got his start in like the teens, maybe even earlier, really early. There's talk that like a lot of the Swedish and Danish filmmakers from the time were actually predating D.W. Griffith and coming up with like the 3-act story structure and like the what cinema language was going to be, like came up with it either first or separately, and came up with sometimes more dynamic, interesting ideas on like how to tell stories with cameras and lights and action. Benjamin Christensen being one of them. Started in Denmark, made Haxon Witchcraft of the Ages there, which he is director and also has like a starring role as the devil himself. Really ridiculous, wonderful movie. See this film. Then he goes to America, where he makes a movie called The Haunted House, which is now sadly lost, but looks like a ton of fun. I'm not doing this in order. He did a film called The Devil's Circus, which is, stars Norma Shearer. Great cover. It's not a supernatural film, as much as it'd be nice if it was, but it is a really fun 1920s circus movie. And it does start with like a devil character for no good reason, so it's a little misleading as it starts off, but it's a good time. I think I saw it at the MoMA many years ago. Some really good scenes in it, actually. But the one to really not miss is 7 Footprints to Satan. Here's a original 1927, 28, I think, photoplay novelization. So it's that A. Merritt source material that I just showed you, but like with stills from Benjamin Christensen's film, which is filled with all sorts of beastmen and cripples and little people and gorillas and caped and cowled literal Satan himself, and like an Art Deco haunted house where like all the intertitle dialogue is like, run for your lives, all hail Satan, run to the grand concourse if whatever, I don't know. Yes, craziness. We horror hosted it in Coney Island a bunch of years ago for our Phantom Creep Theater live spook show troupe, and people were blown away by it. It's a ridiculous movie that you must see. I also said about Haxon Witchcraft of the Ages, which is really true. Another one that's super fun, also made in Hollywood, maybe started to be made in like 26, 27. Doesn't actually get released until 1930s, The Mysterious Island. Really interesting production process. Clearly nobody wanted to work with MGM at this point, because it kind of went from one direction to another. Benjamin Christensen being one of them. It was Maurice Tourneur first, I believe. Quits and forget it, I'm out of here, going back to France. Benjamin Christensen also works on it, quits, goes back to Denmark, I'm out of here, and then somebody else took it on next. Throughout the time, and like this production hell it was in, was the entire transition between silence to talkies. And so you have some scenes that are shot like in the height of the very end of the golden age of silent movies, where like this is just utter artwork, every single shot. And then you have like the very, very early talkie scenes, which are like 2 people standing right next to each other, yelling at each other over like a potted plant with a hidden microphone inside of it, because that was like the best microphones they had at the time. They were like very, very miserable. So like you needed to frame scenes to hide microphones, and they had not figured it out yet. The language of talking films, as opposed to the language of silent films that Boris Sorkin, I suppose, as well, but Benjamin Christensen was actively involved with 20 years earlier. The language of talkies still hadn't been figured out yet. They were still, you could say, tongue-tied. Yeah, so that's Benjamin Christensen. Leaves Hollywood, doesn't want anything more to do with it, and goes back home and continues to make movies there. See everything you can by him is really great. The Lumiere brothers, on this day, screened workers leaving the Lumiere factory in 1895. Yeah, and that's often considered the first film, I think, or is it the first narrative film? The first film production? Something like that. The first film experience? Somewhere in all of those words I got it right. Not sure which ones, but something like that. Yeah. And last but certainly not least, 1979 today, the Damned released their hit single, Smash It Up. So that's it, September 28th. All sorts of things for you to plan your life around and shape the universe in your own likeness. Right? Right, Louis? Right, Louis? No? Nonplussed to the max, to say the least, huh? All right. Till tomorrow.